Hi guys, I just wanted to take a quick pause. I'm currently painting what you're about to watch in the video, but I wanted to pause because we just hit 100 subscribers. And it's so cool, and I'm so honored that you're all here sharing this space with me. Thank you so much for being here. It's been less than a week, and I didn't think we'd reach this number yet. It just feels really special. So thank you. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. What we are going to be, or what I'm currently painting today, is it's going to be a redo of sorts of one of my first paintings from 2021 on like the cheapest paper that actually like got chewed up when I removed the tape. So the edges are all damaged, and we had a white claw can explosion that hit this painting and messed it up a bit, but I think it adds to the story. It's kind of one of me and my husband's favorite paintings of mine, so I wanted to give it a second life. So now with the materials and the skills and the knowledge that I have of this medium, I'm halfway through this painting. And just to be completely transparent, this has not been the easiest painting for me. Not emotionally or anything, but literally just been really hard for me to figure out. But I think it's maybe good to see that everyone struggles as they paint. It's not a perfectly curated reel always, that you just see little bits that make it into the final painting and the final video. There's some real challenges when you're painting and when you're growing, and you know, it's all part of the process and it's all awesome, and it's, you know, even just saying that, it's all 20/20 hindsight though. In it, when you're in it and it's hard and the paint isn't doing what you want it to do, you just want to throw in the brushes, you know, you just want to call it quits. It's good to hold yourself accountable. That's what I'm doing, and that's what I hope you'll see. So we're working our way through. I still have half the painting to go, so that's what I'm about to go do next. Please like and subscribe, and comment down below what you'd like to see from me going forward. If you have any video ideas, that would be awesome. I am literally all ears. And tell your friends. Tell your friends about my painting channel. Or don't tell your friends, keep it to yourself. Either way, thank you again for being here. Let's keep going. I want to finish this. I would like to finish this painting today. Let's go. I'm gonna saturate the area. I'm not gonna go too puddly with this. It's just gonna be lightly damp. So it's wet, it's not puddling. We have a good enough vibe going. So I'm gonna take that minty color we made and I'm going to place it in. What a nice shade. So I'm kind of leaving the center a little bit without most of the pigment, because in this one I didn't leave space for the veining, and that's a detail that I actually really like. So mint on the sides. There's some blue. I'm picking up the different shade so it's a little bit more dimensional. And then I think we're gonna just take a little bit of that purpley shade. See, I'm adding it in a little pot right here so I can keep it in the same color story. I want it to be more purpley. So actually, I think it's not doing exactly what I want. I'll put the mint kind of all over lightly. And then I'll make this a little slightly more purple. And with a very small amount on my brush, I just patted off some of the excess. I'm going to lay it on top. Pick up some more because that wasn't actually enough. Drop in a little pile and maneuver. See, I'm kind of leaving that center area wet. If this is too wet, if that leaf I left with too much water on there, it would completely bleed around. It still might bleed a little bit, but at least it's giving us it's dry enough that we have some workability. And then I can always go in with a dry, clean brush and do a little eraser move. So it looks like there's a little bit of purple on this side of the vein. Tap off the excess. I've tapped off too much of the excess. And then I'll pick up some more of that mint and just kind of start, since it's starting to dry down a little bit, I'll add it right in front of where the vein is because I want it to punch up the depth a little while it's still at this level. And we're just gonna move her around. And same with over there. And now we just want to do the same thing on a leaf that isn't touching this, because if I go immediately in here, that's just going to bleed straight into each other. So a different technique that we could do is not even getting the leaf wet. We're just going to take a very loaded wet brush and really pick up a light amount of this paint with our brush just being the wetness. And we're just going to paint her in and then take just straight up water with whatever was left on there and move her around what I placed down. And now I'm gonna add in a little bit of some greeniness, actually, some minty, and then a little bit more of like the green. And just lightly add that into the shadow area where it's behind this other leaf. You can see it doesn't disperse quite as much as when we did the wet on wet, which can be nice. That more like squishy leaf, I like that in the photo you can see that it has a bit more of the like sappiness, like the greenness to it. So I'm gonna take a little bit of olive green and mix that because I wanna have like pay homage to this original, and I like that I had more like little sappy bursts instead of just all mint all around. So I'll mix up a little one with some more olivey in there. What did I take? Yeah, olive green. And just like we did with this one, I'm not gonna lay down any water because it's a small surface area anyway. I can feel, for me, that this brush is a little too large for this area. So after I'm done with that first wash, I'm gonna pick up my number 2. Just so I can add a little bit more shadow. So I'm taking my shadow mixture and adding it into that more olive green concoction I just made. So it can stay harmonious, and we'll place her here. I cannot believe there's almost 100 of you guys here. It's so crazy to think, like I was imagining it as if I was literally sitting in front of like a classroom, or I guess it'd have to be a lecture hall or something, but of like 100 people just joining me as I paint. It's kind of crazy, and I'm very grateful. So thank you guys for being here. Honestly, each one of you means a lot to me. I'm very, very appreciative. Also, I'd be very interested to hear what are some of the videos, like what are some things that you guys would like to see? Are there specific tutorials? Are there different flowers even? Are there, I don't know, not flowers? Let me know. I'd love some ideas from you guys. So we're taking our purpley mixture and we're dropping it in the corner. Because it has a little bit of that green in there that we're using throughout the whole thing, it's actually keeping pretty harmonious with the rest of our painting, even though it is purple. We just went in with like a straight up purple, it would look disjointed from the rest of our painting. So by having it mix in with the rest of our other mixes, it's keeping it in the same palette. A little brief intermission for this. Hello. Okay, I think I want to do now, actually, I wasn't going to, but I think I'm going to do a quick pass at the stem. Burgundy is going to be some of the brown red to make it fun, some crimson. Yeah, you're lovely. Burnt umber. That's nice. Again, it's just the first pass, so wet on dry for the entire thing. Right, we go pink, pink, darker pink, 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 kind of pink, green, 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 green. So what I'm gonna do is make sure I have my green laid out and my pink ready and mixed up. And I'm gonna start with the green. Get this little green that I have going. It's a sap green, I'd say. And I will add some of my pinky into there. That might be too much. But I'm gonna add a lot of water anyway. We will go in and place our green central line in. We wanna keep it nice and wet so that they can all blend into each other. So quickly moving on to the pink, I might even want to punch it up a little bit more. So I'm adding a little bit of cold pink, I think. Pink, 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 pink. Pink. More burgundy back here. All right, let's go in with our second layer. I want that one to obviously be brought, have a little bit more depth. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring up the grayish blue, purpley here with the mint. I just wanna make sure we're still in the right color fam. So I'll start down here. And I'm just reestablishing those colors in a wet on dry technique. And brush strokes in the following the shape of the leaf. So the mint goes all the way around to the top. And definitely stays pretty vibrant towards the vein in the middle. And we have this nice little pocket here. And then back to the purple. And blend them together. And I'm just gonna soften with a clean brush, just that center. It's a little darker down here. So you want to be careful when you go back in with a wet brush and a wet color where it was already wet, because it can disrupt pretty easily if there's too much water on your brush. So you just want to be mindful of that. And I notice that it's a little lighter here, so I'm gonna just pick up what I've placed, just blur it out. Pretty much that's what we're going for. Maybe a little bit more over here, and just let it do its thing. Other side is pretty much just mint with maybe a little bit darker of a shade in the middle. I want it to stay a little grungy, actually, so we'll start down at the bottom again. I'm just laying my colors. Oops, see, way too much water, so it's gonna disrupt that flow. You wanna make sure it stays pretty saturated with the water. Just at the edges. And I can see there's even a little bit of that tone right there, so I'm gonna, to keep it consistent going across, take some of that purpley gray. And some at the bottom as well. Now to continue on, yeah, we want to make that one more green, which will be nice because since these ones have some of that olivey shade in it, that'll keep it harmonious. So we'll go in, I'll kind of punch that up with a little bit of olive brown into our mint shade. Okay, so we're just gonna do our second layer on top to bring it a little bit more to life. You know, I will actually keep the two hemispheres separate. And it stays darker in this middle where there's, oh God. How many times? We should count how many times. I have to pick up a cat hair. The shadow goes kind of there. So what I'm gonna do is gonna clean off my brush, not all the way, and then I'll blur from the edges with the dampness of the brush, a little too much, and connect into the shadows. And then the darkest pocket of pigment will stay where I want it to as that shadow, and then the rest will blur out into the rest of the leaf. So I'm just controlling the placement. I'm gonna scrub a little here. So I'm scrubbing that out because I just didn't love the exact placement of it coming off of the stem. So I'm just blurring it, kind of picking it up. So it was actually laying where we wanted it to. And I want to blur out this edge. So clean, dry, or clean damp brush, and I'm blurring out my seam because it was looking a little harsh. Nice. So that central vein really stays pretty clear and without a lot of color towards this bottom middle. But you can see at the top it has a little, no, am I gonna do this right now? Let's just see. Add a little bit of this red. So place that down. It's obviously way too dark, but I'm gonna use that to just start the suggestion. Yeah, it's okay. You know what? Scratch what I just said. We're gonna actually do this leaf. So I'm gonna do this one more because you can really see the prominent veins here. So I'm gonna do these more in very definitive little segments, okay? So this one's minty green. And over here, I'm just gonna start with this outer edge. So it goes down and around. And to just make sure we get that shape correct, we're just looking at our reference. It kind of pillows out right there. And I'm just gonna lighten it slightly and soften. we're just gonna repeat that with all of our little areas. I'll make sure that dries first, so then I'll start on the other side, same thing. Kind of go to here. Nice. Clean brush, soften that edge. So I can see there's like a little bit of that bluey gray in this middle area. So I'm gonna place it down. And it goes in this direction, all the way to the top. And then using just what I have laid out, I'm gonna blur it together. That's not really picking up a lot of the, we're gonna turn this over. I'm not finding that much, that the paper towel is picking up as much water as I'm used to. So that blurs down into kind of nothing. And how does that look on camera? It looks okay. I don't love it. I don't love how that came together. Let's figure this out. So I'm just placing down some paint, and I'm gonna swipe it into their little segments to add a little bit of a shadow on the edge. And I'm noticing that some of the lines go down this way. God. So I'm gonna just reactivate my set right here. So I'm just following the biggest sections of the veining, or the different segments of that leaf. I'm going in. And I do want to soften that edge. So dry brush, or damp brush. And I'm just going to paint around that edge so it lightly feathers out. And then I'm just going to, while that edge is damp, pick up that same color. Because if they bleed together, it kind of makes it more harmonious. Yeah, we just want to make sure that it all looks like it's one leaf rather than two separate pieces. This is actually stumping the out of me. Okay, let's just try something. Let's see if I do another layer of a light wash on that leaf, if that'll marry that shape together. I'm actually really stumped. Okay, let's just keep going and we'll troubleshoot. I think this is just gonna be quite the layered piece, maybe. Because I think the thing is, like, the tinier veins, they're very subtle. Like, they're there, but you don't want them to be like the most prominent thing. And I'm just kind of struggling with that balance, to be honest. You know, maybe I'm just not gonna do the veins. I don't think I'm gonna do the veins. So screw it, and we're gonna just blur all of this together because it's still damp. This central line is also too crisp right there. So remember, I'm gonna blur out that edge, take my paper towel, and just damp it off. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow down to here. Okay, and then this has a little bit of darker shading right next to the inner vein. So we're just building up in little sections, very slowly. And I don't want it that harsh, so we'll just lightly blur it out. And I want more of the purple over here. It leads into the middle. And I'm just gonna place it down and buff it out into the surrounding shade. I might even pick up a little bit more of that mint to just marry it together. This is a little darker down here. And we're just looking at little details that will make it look more realistic. I like that this edge is nice and bright, so I'll just make sure to scrub out some of that. And you can see there's that shadow off the side of the vein. Okay, so that just adds a little bit more dimension. And I want this center, because there's a nice shadow sitting here. I'm using more of like the dryness of my brush to continue with that organic texture. Okay, and then just to keep this cohesive over here, we just want to do a little bit of that same work. So I'm placing down that purpley gray, bringing it into the it's darker towards the center. And then smudged out. I'm going to take my brush, a clean brush, and I'm just doing a little dot, because with that detail with the red dot that I want to add, has a little bit of light, like has a light patch around it. So I'm just removing that pigment. And there's one down here as well. And then I'm gonna add with just the red right in that dot. And then I'm gonna kind of damp away the excess, maybe blur it out a little bit. Nice. Starts up here. And we just lightly bring it down to the center. I'm gonna blur that up. Lightly here. It peeks out. Take some of the green of the leaf again. We can further define the edge of that central vein with a little bit of a shadow. finish that off. It needs that red edge. Get that cat hair off. And then we're gonna lightly outline. And then connect it into its green edge. We're just moving slowly. And then starts green up here as well. All right, so like I said when I first started this channel in my intro video, was that I wanted to like really show the real side of watercolors and how not glamorous it is. And I think this is a perfect example of that moment. I'm kind of figuring it out as I go because I'm not loving how everything is working together. I think we will be able to salvage it, but I don't know if it's exactly what I was hoping for. We're just gonna keep trusting the process. I think this is a very good example of that in practice. But yeah, just to be completely transparent, I am struggling a bit with this one. Each painting that I do struggle with, you know, I always learn a lot in the process. Yeah, for this one, I'm learning that I'm not having a good time. No, I'm learning that some colors just don't really blend too easily together. They don't, and I'm meaning the blend in here. They're kind of separating a bit. That could be the quality of these paints. I did want to use my set that's a little bit more price friendly rather than, you know, my Schmincke 48 half pan. So we'll just keep this going. Little by little, I already know I want that to be darker, darker, darker. Because this, and compared to this, is such a drastic value change. So let's just do one more layer of that there. In the browny green, a little bit more brown. I'll take some of my indigo, I love indigo. And a little bit more green, we'll go olive. And we will darken that to just make sure we're getting our values correct. I find it amazing really looking at my original, and I was just so bold with my colors. This was just a one layer job really. And now I don't think I paint a piece without, what, 4 layers? Just interesting to think of how things change, how styles evolve. And this shadow goes all the way up. And just bring it around. I think that's looking great. I really think adding those edges really just makes such a difference. With some paintings, it's interesting, you know, I'll go the entire way up evenly. And some paintings like this, I just want to take it in chunks. And I think because I was uncomfortable with this one to begin with, I needed to just really wrap my head around how I wanted it to like what I wanted the final result to be. So now I kind of have a grasp on it all. And this has a really sharp shadow right on the edge. If you remember in my California Poppy video, I like to blur my eyes to make sure that I'm keeping all the values in the same, like where they need to be. So I'm looking at the reference photo and looking at this painting and blurring and just making sure that these are sitting at the same levels that I'm seeing in that photo. So we want these to be pretty dramatically different, which I think we're there. That one's a lot darker, especially that patch. But then this area and these two are very similar in that color story, and this is slightly lighter. And I think that's where we're kind of nailing that. So we just want to make sure that we're staying consistent with our values. I want that to be slightly bluer. Mix it all together. make sure it has enough water in that brush to continue all the way through. Keep that edge going. It continues down over the center vein, that color. And then we move into the purpley gray. Use your brush to make that a little cleaner. Define the vein with a little shadow. So start there, and then I'm gonna smudge to make it look like a little bit of a shadow and bring it all the way. So we're just scrubbing the suggestion of the different segments of this leaf. So this shadow is good, and I like that color, but I do want it to be a little bit more harmonious with the above. So I'm going to hit the edge right at where the central vein would finish. Add that down the edge and blur. And then it won't be on the back edge, but we'll just have it where it wraps slightly around the front. So I'll take some of this pink to add a little bit more depth here to this stem. And that will come up here as well. And that goes into a slight limey green. And this is just our second wash. And then on the third layer, after this completely dries, I'm gonna go in and add our deeper shadows. So this actually has a little bit of pink in there. So we wanted to blend those together. This one goes pink. This one also goes pink. And I like leaving that, it just all wet, so they all just blend and bleed and organically mix together. And I'm gonna focus right on the shadow. Now the same, we wanna remember we're only using this mixture of shadows on the pinks. The green area is gonna have a completely different shadow color. Smudge. Smudge. And now we're taking this darker green and adding it into our green section. And I actually want to kick that up with a little bit more brown. You're just moving slowly and keeping it really defined. And it connects into that little shoulder. I'm actually gonna leave that one for the end because I really need to know how dark it needs to be. So I'll go to this big leaf, which is, I'm not gonna lie, it's intimidating me, but let's do it. So I'll actually start with this bottom area, and we're just gonna build up that shadow. And then keeping the hemispheres separate. And I'm gonna just scrub in. See, you place it in, and I'm just squiggling my brush. So I'm smudging out. And then that has a nice pink edge around the outside. Let's do this leaf. I'm doing my second wash with a more mossy green shade. And then I'll be bringing that same tone of green back here. These are the same darkness. Great. So those three are kind of the same vein. We brought the color down here to keep it cohesive. So now seeing how dark this leaf is, I can now build off of this one because they're in the similar value. So I'm just taking some of the mint and the purple, and I'm just blurring it together. The edge has a little bit more of the mint. Okay, so these two leaves, actually these two are gonna stay as light as this one. So that'll keep that story going here. So I'm just making sure to leave that highlight. While those dry, I'm gonna work on that stem. This has a little bit more red to it. Last leaf, and it's dark green into just the mint with some slight purpley gray, and then that is it. So I'll just take the whole wash of mint, make that darker, and I'll just, while it's still wet, I'll pop some little drops of purpley gray. With a clean brush, I will swipe it up, and then same thing, but I'll take a smaller brush, and I'm going to just clean up around the edge with the red. What's nice about this detail too is it just kind of cleans up the final piece, like any of the edges that you've made a little messy. And I want it to have a little bit of some browny bit for a little decay. But for the most part, I think that's it. I think we're done. Sign down at the bottom. But there we go. Let's scoot our piece over and we can look at what is different from our original to our final what we know now painting. So it's very obvious to see the differences. Let me pull it in side by side. We have our two paintings done in 2021 and 2025. We can see what we kept similar and what we wanted to achieve was bringing in a little bit of like the purple and marrying the piece together, but my style has truly developed into a much more realistic style. This one was just focusing on color. This one focused on the final details that really brought the piece together. We had some hiccups, we had some ups and downs. I didn't think we were gonna make it for some of the painting, but I think we did it. Amazing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.